Hey YouTube, it's TheCousinDan. Today I'm going to be using my 944 to show you how to replace valve seals. Now, these cars are different in a lot of ways, but when it comes to valve seals, they're pretty much the same as everything else. So you should be able to gain a good bit of information from this regardless of what you have. I'm also going to show you how to grind valve seats by hand with a little bit of grinding paste. So it's going to be an informative video. We're going to cover some ground, but just sit back and here's how it's done. Some people say that you can do this job with the cylinder head on the vehicle. It's tricky though, because if you take out the little rings that hold the valves in place when you compress your springs, you can drop them down in oil return channels, and it's really just not pretty. They go right down in here and they'll drop right down into the oil pan, and you got to take the oil pan off to get them out. And so I have this thing taken apart. I've actually been doing a head gasket job, but this whole head is loose. So we're going to take it off and we're going to do the valve job off the vehicle. In order to do this, you're going to need what's called a valve spring compressor. Now there's a couple different kinds of valve spring compressors, but this is the kind that you would get if you use the AutoZone Loaner Tool program. So basically what you do is like a puller, but you hook in on one of the bottom steps of the spring on one side, and do the same thing on the other side. You should be able to pretty easily. There we go. And then you start walking this down by twisting it, and you set that right on top of the plate on top of the spring. So you got two hooks, one on each side on the bottom level of the spring itself, and then this top press pushing down right on the top disc that pushes on the spring. Now you can see as I'm turning this, I'm just doing it by hand. Use a little leverage there. You can see the spring just pulling right up towards the top. When you get all the way to the top, the spring is totally compressed. Now you can see there were a few different steps down in there that were past where I could reach with the actual grabber, but that shouldn't be a problem. The only difference between this and a lot of other cars is that these are high performance springs, and so there's a second spring inside of this one. That means that you can only get the outer one, not the inner one, because these little lips aren't long enough. So when you push this, you can see you can still move it like that. Now that'll be okay, but basically you still have to use a little bit of force beyond the puller itself. One other thing though is that a lot of times these keepers inside that we're going to pull out, they're frozen, so you got to give them a good little whack, and then you can see they start coming out. So next step is to just push on this thing and do whatever you need to get some leverage, but you just push it down and try to get your keepers out, which are these little guys right in there. It splits apart and you pull them. This is a bit tricky, but you can get it done without, they're not really held together at all except by the spring tension itself. There's one. Don't want to lose those things. That one just dropped on the floor. Usually when you get a new set of valve seals, they don't come with new keepers, so don't lose these. This might be a better two-man job, but well, when you only got one man like me, you just gotta make it happen. Alright, so I got both of them off, and they just look like this. They're little kind of sloped rings that fit together, and so they fit in there as a V so the thing can't come back out, and they are ribbed so that they can hold on to the valve itself. And then you just pull the spring off like that, thing comes out together. You want to keep this spring compressor on it. Just do one valve at a time, and then move this thing off of here, and just like that you pull the whole valve and stem out. You can see all this crap that's built up on here. I'm going to take it over and show you how I'll clean that off before I put it back together, and that'll help enhance flow when the engine's running again. Before we go do that, I'm going to take off the old valve seal, and that's this little thing right here. So just kind of put a pliers on there. I'm not really pulling hard. I guess I could use a pliers, not a vice grip, but just kind of wiggle, or I'm not squeezing it hard, just wiggle it and pull it off and it looks like that. I kind of bent it up taking it off, but that's okay. I have a new one. New one looks like this, and we're just gonna put that right back on there as soon as I clean off this piece. You want to clean off everything while you're in there. There's also a little ring, usually at the bottom, that the spring sits on, and a spacer. So just clean this stuff off, maybe put some engine oil on it before you put it back in, and then we'll just push that valve seal right back on top once we put that disc back in there. So I've got this valve off, and there's all this crap all over it. It's basically carbon buildup. So I'm just going to take a piece of metal here, because this part is not really specific. It has to be a good shape to help flow, but not until you get down over here does it have to be a perfect surface to seal. So I'm just going to take this and scrape it off, get all this crap off of here, and because we don't want that, because it just builds up and takes up space that air could be flowing through around your valve. So that's a useless waste of space. So that comes off really easily, and then when I get most of it off, I'm just going to take this little Dremel with a wire brush on it, and I'm just going to kind of buzz it off there. I'm also going to hit the surface edges of this, the touching edges. Alright, and there it is. Now we're going to go put it back in and then use the grinding compound to actually help seat this valve. Alright, so here's the underside of the cylinder head. Got the valve here, and I'm just going to take a little bit of valve grinding compound, and I'm going to put some of that on my finger, just smear it around the inside edge of this thing, because this is where the real seal happens, right where the two touch. And so we're just going to put a little bit of that on here. There we go. And then set the valve in the hole that the stem goes in. Let that thing drop right in there. Then we're going to take the whole head, turn it around like that, and take a little cloth like this, or put it over the top, and put a vice grip on it. But I don't want the vice grip to be very tight, so I can do that with it, because I don't want to actually scar the metal. So I'm going to put this thing on here and let the cloth be the only tightening factor, really. And then just kind of turn this back over so you can see. I've got it on the valve, and I am turning this valve by hand. And that grinding compound has a lot of grit in it. Kind of lift it up here and there, and I keep turning this thing back and forth, allowing this valve to seat in and grind its own way into its seat in the exact position it's going to be in while the engine's running. So I do this for a while, I don't know, maybe a couple minutes, and I might even put in a little bit more grinding compound before I'm done. Just keep this thing moving, maybe rotate sides, do 360-degree turns, but you don't have to be super aggressive with it. But when it's done, just clean off everything you can, and then we'll put the spring back on. When you're done grinding, it's really easy to see that there's a nice clean seat there that has just been freshly ground down, and it's been ground down by its mating counterpart, so you know that the seat is perfect. And you can see the lighter spot there is the fresh grinding, and so when you slide these things together, there's going to be a very nice clean seat there between the two of them, and you're going to get a good seal and a lot of compression when you're running. Remember, when you're putting this stuff together, you should put oil on the valve stem before sliding it back in. With it flipped back over, we can see the valve in here that we just got to put this this new seal back on. And I've got a little bit of engine oil here that I've been putting on every one of them. We'll just slide that thing right on top and then press it down onto the thing that it sits on. There we go. You could do this with or without the valve in, but I'm just using the valve as a guide. So that baby's in there, and then we just take our spring compressor that still has a spring on it and just slide it right on top. Then we're going to put our keepers in. Putting the keepers in is pretty straightforward. We just got to put the thing on and press it down like we did when we took them out. Now we got those keepers on. I'm just going to back out the compressor, pull it right off, and that's what it looks like. And those two-sided keepers are right in there, and they won't let go. Well, that's it. That's how you seat your valves and replace the seals. If you have any questions at all, just put them in the comment section below, or shoot me a message, and I'd be happy to answer. If you'd like to help me out, just click on one of the ads. I get paid a little bit every time for that, and I appreciate that. And if you like it, just subscribe. But thanks for watching The Cousin Dan.
Here's the thing, we started out